Hey guys, this is Melanie Turner with Don't Get Cancer and Save the World at Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. There's a Q&A session with Brian and Clement going on. Let's go in.
Mentor graduated Harvard in 1928. When I was 24, he sat me down and he said, "Young man, what you do is noble and effective. But more important, as you mature, you better convince people of this, because that's more important than what you do." Placebo. And so, do I think if you take ghee and make a tradition and have the Ayurvedic doctor come in and say, "Oh, this is a part of it, you need sodium"? I think it's different. I think it helps. I think it helps. Do I think the ghee has some magic in it? No, it's the milk of another species. If it has any magic in it or any information in it, it's for a calf, not for a human being. Yeah, well, that's even worse. You know what clarified means? Cooked to hell. Pasteurized beyond comprehension. That's pasteurized, homogenized. They have all these fancy names, you know. But what it means is processed, heavily processed. When I was in India, it was interesting. They invited me, and I did it. I was crazy enough to. At 4 o'clock in the morning, when I was there, we were in a little town called Hyderabad, and outside of Hyderabad there was Holy Conscience, and they were actually having a 2-year ritual with all the leaders of the world. They had rabbis, priests, ministers, the shamans, all over doing peace rituals. And at 4 in the morning they would get up and they would actually have ghee, and they would burn ghee in the middle of the room, and people would pray, meditate, contemplate, whatever their tradition was. And they invited me to 2 or 3, and I went there. And this was part of the ritual that I saw them using ghee with. They actually build buildings out of the poop of a cow. I mean, how important is cows in India? Pretty darn important. Homes made out of cow poop. So I get it, and there's nothing wrong with it. We've learned a lot in 5,000 years. We've learned a lot. Yes. Any question? About 60 to 70% of dry eyes is long-term B6 deficiencies. Then you have a whole lot of other problems. And you have a multitude of other problems. Your ducts are actually clogged. Maybe you were born with it, so it's not as easy as saying take this vitamin and get rid of it. You take a surgery and get rid of it. Then you have where you live. Where you live is highly polluted, and so it's chemical burning of that. So you see in Los Angeles you have 5 times the epidemic that you would in Vermont. That's a statistic, by the way, a real statistic. Mexico City has more than Vermont, more than Los Angeles, and as much as Denver, Colorado, which has more than Los Angeles. So you look at locations you have for this. And then you also have the possibility that you had an injury. So when I was a kid, whenever I got injured, I hit my eye. I don't know what it was. I'd fall down and my eye would be hit. And so it could have been an injury like that. We actually have bruising and scar tissue that are involved. But there's variations in it. But most of the people, it's long-term B6 deficiencies. Now, on this diet, you don't have to worry about that. It will eventually come. Yes? Dark circles are liver. So before I changed my diet radically, I had a really dark circle. I looked like Dracula. So for you, that's understandable. That will eventually go away. Oh, yeah. It's true. You are a lot better. I remember it. Well,
what was the question?
She's talking about the endocrine system. In her case, they removed her thyroid. And one of the things that is in part true, not completely true, is that when you don't have endocrine system glands, be it the thyroid or be it one of the others, lymphatic glands, that the absorption of nutrients go down. Now, it doesn't mean totally gone, you don't get any. It's just you have to super nutrate yourself. You have to have more nutrition than so drinking these juices, taking supplementation like we're taking, or superior nutrients are going to assure that you get adequate amounts. Your body may have a more difficult time than my body or her body because your thyroid's missing. But remember, the body's resilient. It's like stunning to me. We can take a kidney out and you can live a normal life. Lungs. The body, you can fix. The body says, hey, I'm not going to die no matter what. They have to take almost every organ out of the body before you die. You know, it's just remarkable. And the good news is other glands take up for the thyroid. Thyroid's pretty important. The way I picture the thyroid, and let's talk about it. The thyroid is the woman at the taxi company that answers the phone and tells the taxi where to go. You follow what I'm saying?
The dispatcher.
So you call in and say, I want to go to the airport. Now, where does that all happen? That happens up in the middle of the brain, in this wonderful area, smack in the center of the brain, called the pituitary and pineal glands. That's sort of the god of all thoughts, all emotions, all feelings. I always picture, remember those biblical movies where God gets on? God always sounds like a macho guy. You ever notice? Never sounds like a sissy. God always sounds like, hello, I'm God. You say, well, that must be God. Why? He sounds like God. You know? God sounded like this, and then you would say, that's not God. So the pituitary and pineal gland are God. This is what I want you to do. So that's your phone call. Comes down, goes to the thyroid gland. This is a woman answering the phone and says, okay, go here, go here, go here. Now, if you don't have that, there's a lot of confusion in your body. When I say go here, there, the movement of your arm, the movement of your eyes, walking, talking, thinking, feeling, all of that's thrown off. Now, if it were completely stopped, you would become a mute. It doesn't completely stop. Other glands take up for it. So I'm not sure what the number is. I don't really know, to be honest with you. You may absorb 20% less or 40% less, but it's not 100% less. So you die of starvation. So doing this lifestyle, you're going to be okay, because we're supercharging you with nutrition. We have extra. Here he is. Sound like me? I died of asthma. The only thing I ever died from. The 2.5 I died. And thank God I had one uncle that was a doctor, and the nurse went up and said, go down and console your relatives. Your nephew just died. And he ran down, revived me. And my whole life I had eczema. All over my face, all over my... When I started to like girls at 12, 13 years old, I was embarrassed. All my face had eczema on it, because asthma and eczema are really the same disease. When the lungs don't work, the skin tries to breathe. That's what it is. So you must have had some of these things happen to you. And, you know, in medicine they don't know that. They have the asthma association, they want to collect more money, or eczema association. I seem to figure that out probably when I was 22 years old. And the reality is, can we get the lungs to work again? Over in the gym here, we have oxygen condensers next to something called exercise equipment. The Germans have done brilliant studies on that. They basically said not only if you use this for 5 years moderately, you prolong your life by 5 years, it expands the lungs. When I was a very young man, I had the privilege to learn to know the #1 underwater photographer in America at that point. You saw anything in those days in diving magazines, it was him, his pictures. And when he was a little boy, he grew up here in Florida, he used to crawl in. His mother said before he walked, he would crawl into the water and swim. He was like a fish. And when we would go out on boats with him, we were all completely freaked out, because we'd go down with equipment, diving equipment, come up, he'd jump down, could not come up for 3-4 minutes. And every time we're calling the Coast Guard, you know, he's dead, he'd pop up. If you looked at it, he was this tall, and his lungs were this big. His chest was like that. He just developed lungs. So what you've done is lack of use of your lungs have restricted your lungs further, and yes, as you get older, that's going to happen. So what you have to do is reverse it by expanding the lungs, by using oxygen, by taking certain drops, if I were you, I'd be over at the medical department today taking inhaled glutathione. So inhaled glutathione, amazing stuff. I was reluctant bringing it in here. I think what an ass I was, I didn't have it here 10 years ago. That's remarkable with it. It starts to feed the cells inside of the lungs. It starts to heal the lungs. What I said to this young lady, the very first answer I gave today, is you take eucalyptus oil, not schlock you get out of the store. If you get good eucalyptus, 100% pure, you start to taste horrible. Start ingesting. I'm not supposed to tell you that. Ingest it twice, 3 times a day. And it starts to open up the lungs. And if you get rid of the dairy food, you get rid of the bakery goods, even organic ones, you get rid of the meat, you don't get better, I'll be shocked. Now, you may not, at our age, you may be 100% well, but you will get better. I promise it. You're going to get better. How can you not get better when you clean everything out and start to expand it? But, you know, you're going to say, don't just go like this. I want to see you better. Don't thank, the only way you thank me is get better.